Okay, in this video, we are going to look at Google Forms. You can get to Google Forms by typing forms.google.com, and that'll take you into the Forms app. So what Forms let you do is create online forms that you can then send to people, and they can fill it out, and you can gather information. You can also set up quizzes in Forms by uh, setting up the quiz feature, and then you can send out this quiz to people. They can take it. And the nice thing with Forms is on the back end, all the information can be stored into a Google Sheet so that you can then use Sheets to go through and tabulate the data and to sort it and to do all the things that you can do with Sheets. So let's look at the Google Forms interface. It's similar to all the other Google apps. When you first get into it, you have your forms that you've created. So I have some example ones here. You also have your template gallery that you can expand by clicking on the little arrows up at the top, and they'll expand the gallery. And you can look through and you can see that there's different types of templates, uh, pre uh, preformed templates that you can choose and get started with. So you have different ones like RSVPs and party invites. You have some order forms, job application, customer feedback. Then in education, you have like assessments and course evaluation. So that gives you an idea of just some of the things that you can do with Google Forms. So to get out of the template gallery, we select the little arrow to the left, and that brings us back to our Google Forms homepage. You can also look at a list view. So if you want to just display the forms that you do have in a different view, you can use this view, toggle between grid view and list view by selecting that. You can also sort forms. You can sort by last opened by me, so the forms that I've recently opened, the ones last modified by me, ones that were last modified, and then you can open them by title. And then you can also use the open file. You can choose them from my drive. If there is any that were shared with me that other people had created and shared with me, I'd be able to see those here. If there are any that I had starred or just sort of put as a favorite, those would show up right here. And then any forms I recently opened, you'd see those. And then if I wanted to upload anything, I would be able to do that right here. So next we are going to be looking at how to just create a new blank form. So up in the top left corner, you'll see it says blank and it has a little plus symbol over it. So if we select that, that lets us, that gives us a blank form that we can start populating. So we can give it a title right here. So we'll do a survey. You can type a little description. Okay, so we have our title, we have a description for it, and we have our first question right here. So when we select where it says untitled question, it now gives us a choice for the different types of questions. So let's take a look at the different choice formats that we have. It can be a short answer, so just a short line of text. It can be a paragraph, so this is if you want them to write more than just a short little line of text. If you want a paragraph or a larger response, you can select paragraph. We've got multiple choice. We've got check boxes, drop down. If we want to upload a file, give people an option to upload a file, they can choose this one. We've got linear scale, multiple choice grid, checkbox grid, and date and time. And each one of these, they do have different features, and we'll get into some of those features in future lessons. But for now, we're just going to go with multiple choice. So type the question. So it gives you some suggestions here. So either yes, no, or maybe. So we could start typing those in, but we can also just, it'll be quicker if we just select the ones that we have right here and select no, and we can select maybe. So we've got a yes, no, maybe. We've got this one here. To remove a question, you just put your mouse over it and go over to the right here and select the X to remove an option that you don't want. So some of the options that you have, you can select down here if this is required and they have to answer it, and you can select that to turn that on, or you can leave it off. And then some additional features you have are a description to show the description here. You can also go to a section based on the answer. So this is how you can create branching questions with responses. We'll get into that in a future lesson, but that's one option that you have. You also have a shuffle option order. So if you want to shuffle how the responses are provided here, you can do that as well. If you don't want this question, you can just delete it by selecting the little garbage can icon at the bottom. You can delete it, or if you want to duplicate it so that you don't have to re-enter the information, you can select duplicate, and then you can just change the question, and it's a little easier than creating it from scratch. So some of the options we have over on this menu right here, we see that one of the options is add a question. We can add a title and description. We can add an image. We can add a video. We can also create a new section. So let's add another question. This one, let's say we want this to be a paragraph. Let's type the question. Okay, so this is a pretty simple survey that we have right here. So now that we've created this really short survey, let's take a look at it and see if there's anything that we want to change. So we do that by going up to the preview icon at the top right, select that. And now we can see what our survey will look like. So let's say yes. You can write your response and then select the submit button. And it confirms that our response has been recorded, and then gives us the option to submit another response if we want to. So that's how we preview the form. So now that we submitted the response, you can go up here and you can see under responses that we have one response that's submitted right now. And it gives us a graph, a breakdown of the responses right now. Since we just have one, we've got 100%. Got the response here for the short question. You can see the individual responses, what they selected. And if you had more, you would just be able to scroll through them and go to the next response by clicking this arrow here. Some of the other options we have are we can get email notifications for any new responses. We can choose where we want the destination for the responses. So if we have another form or a Google sheet that we would like to record the response in, we could choose it from right here. We could also download the responses as a CSV file. And we can also print all responses right here. And then you could delete all responses if that was something that you wanted to do. We also have the create spreadsheet right here. So we would be able to select that. We could create a new spreadsheet. We can give it a title right here. Or we could choose an existing spreadsheet if there's already one created. In this case, we're going to just create a new spreadsheet. So we create that, and then it'll open up Sheets, and you'll see that it automatically populates in Sheets, the responses. So this is a nice feature. It just goes right into a sheet, and then you can do any data manipulation or adjust this as you see fit in Sheets. Okay. You can also choose to close the responses. So if it gets to a point where maybe after a certain date you don't want to accept any more responses, you can select this, and this will close it. If anyone goes to it, they'll just get a message saying that the form's not accepting responses. So now we have that sheet that is linked to this form. So any responses that we get from this form, once we send it out, it's going to go in that sheet. But there may be a time where you want to unlink that sheet, and maybe you want to use a different sheet. So you just go over here to the three little stacked dots, select that, and you could go down to unlink form, and that would unlink the form from the sheet. So another thing we can do is we can change the color and the look of the form. You could go up here to the palette, the color palette, and selecting that icon drops down just some different colors that you can choose from. You can also choose to add an image if you have an image uploaded. So we could choose that. You see that it's changed the color. So let's look at some of the settings that we have for this. So when we click the settings button, under the general settings, we can collect email addresses. So that would force people to have to leave their email address here. And then it would send a response receipt to them that they've completed the form. We can also limit the response to just one person so that they aren't able to just submit multiple responses. We can also let the respondents edit after they submit. We can also let them see a summary chart and text responses. Under the presentation tab, we can choose to show them a progress bar. So if they have maybe 3 questions they have to answer, it'd say, okay, you're on 1 of 3 or 2 of 3 or 3 of 3. We could also shuffle the question order if we'd like to do that. Okay, and this is where we select to give them a link if we want to let them submit another response, or we can not give them that link by toggling this on and off. And then we have a confirmation message here, so we could put a thank you. Little message. And then this is an option where we can turn this into a quiz if we would like to turn it into a quiz instead of a survey. So by doing this, this lets us add point values to the questions. It also lets us provide feedback for either a correct answer or a wrong answer. So if we select this toggle button, say make this a quiz, we have the options to release grade immediately after each submission or later after manual review. And then we give the respondents options to see missed questions, to also see the correct answer, and to see the point values. So that's all the settings under the settings tab. So the next button we have is the send button. So once we have created our survey or our form that we want to send out to people, we select the send button. And we have a couple different ways that we can send this out. So we've got right now that to collect email addresses. So that forces people to sign in and give their email address. So we can send it out via email. And if we choose this one, then we type in here who we want to send the email to. So you just select different people. And you could put your subject there and a message. And if you want to include the form inside of the email, you could choose this. So instead of having them go to a link, it would just be right there in the email, and they could fill it out from within the email. You also have a link. You can choose this one, and it would give you this link, and you would be able to copy this link by selecting it and selecting copy. You could also shorten it if you want a shorter link to send out. And then you would copy that, and you could put that into an email and send it out, or paste it on a website. You also have embed text right here. So you could take this embed HTML code and you could put that into a blog or any HTML editor, and you'd be able to embed that form right inside that web page, and people would be able to submit the form from the web page, and it would go into the sheet still. And then you have some other options. You can share via Google Plus, or share the form via Facebook, or share the form via Twitter. So those are the different ways that you can share and send a form. So let's look at the More button. So this is the three dots that are stacked on top of each other in the top right corner next to the Send button. So if we select this, that gives us the option to undo from here. We can make a copy of the form. We can move it to trash. We can get a pre-filled link. What this lets us do is it lets us fill in the different options here in the form and then send that to someone. And then when they open it, it'll have those already pre-filled. We also have the option to print. If we want to add collaborators to work on this with us, we can add collaborators from right here. We've got a script editor. If we want to add any type of scripting, if we have the ability to make custom scripts, you can add those through the script editor here. You can also add additional add-ons. Google has different add-ons that you can choose. So one that is a handy one. So if you're, say you're creating a form for parent-teacher conferences, and there's certain dates that and times that people can pick, and once they're picked, you don't want people to be able to choose those again. So there's add-ons that you can get that will enable that functionality. It doesn't come standard in Google Forms, but there's a bunch of different add-ons that you can choose. We can just take a look here, and you can see that it brings up a bunch of, here's that choice eliminator that I was just talking about. And you've got a bunch of different ones that you can choose from, and so you can go through and you can look at all the different ones there. And then we have preferences. So the preferences we just have the default settings. So collect email address. And then the questions, make questions required. And then we have a default quiz point value that we can set right here. We can change the values of the quiz questions. Okay, in this video, we looked at how to create a new Google form. We looked at how to add questions to the form, and then how to share that form and send it out to other people. Make sure to check out our other videos in the series on using Google Forms.